Welcome to 5-Minute Lessons for Nonprofits. I'm Mike Gellman. Today, we're going to talk about formatting and operating reserve policy. Our goals for today are to explore operating reserves through the benefits of having a formatting process. Having a set formatting process will improve understanding. It'll help people to gain an consensus about operating reserves. It'll help to clarify, which will help to accelerate the operating reserve building process. And then, of course, the key is it'll help to tie into enhancing sustainability. In order to think about the formatting process, I like to separate it into 4 areas, and we're going to go through these in this order. Operating reserve goal defined in terms of mission. Then the second section will be operating reserve goal in terms of % of budget. And then the key here is tying it into a budget bottom line, and then taking a look at an operating reserve goal status report, which we'll briefly add at the end. So part 1. Looking at the operating reserve goal in terms of mission. Let's pause for a second and think about this. So often people want to think about operating reserve goals in dollars, and really to have a powerful message, it should be related to your mission, the key things that you do, what people connect your organization to. If you state your operating reserve goal in that way, it is so much more meaningful, and it will take the focus off the total dollars. Some examples of how to do that here are, you could see, provide 150 recipients for 6 months supporting services. If you're a membership organization, we want to have 1-year membership services bank, so we'll have continuity. If we lean on grants heavily, this way we can say that we will be able to bridge between grants, that we have 6 months of grant funding, and for cash flow purposes. And take a look at this bottom line here. It's so much more powerful than we say we have an operating reserve goal of $3 million. It's to state it in these terms, in terms of mission. Okay, now we switch over. Once we figure out that statement in terms of mission, I do like to always go back to a simplified operating reserve goal formula. So if 150 participants in the program for 6 months is close to 6 months of an annual budget, or 3 months of a quarter, we'll move that to line up with the budget. So I always fall back on, at the end of the day, that we're going to have an operating reserve goal, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. But what I describe it is that 9 months will support these mission-based areas. And this is why we have an operating reserve goal and why it's very important to us. So let's go to the third area. And this is something that most people don't concentrate on, and it gives meaning to operating reserves, is tying in the operating reserve goal to your budgeting process. All organizations, to me, are at one of 3 spots. They're either at the reserve goal, below the reserve goal, or above the reserve goal. If we're below our reserve goal, you want to be, it'll help give you a targeted bottom line that we need to be a little more focused on adding to operating reserves. Okay, we have this 3 to 5% range. I'll come back and talk about the percents in a second. Obviously, the step down, if we're near or at or just above our reserve goal, we can lower that pressure on the bottom line to add to reserves. And even for organizations that have many years or many months of operating reserves put away and above the reserve goal, I still like this idea of adding to, you don't want to have a deficit budget most times. And we could still say we're adding to operating reserves because we want to build for the future. We want to have an inflation hedge. And if we grow as an organization, it means our operating reserves will need to grow in the future. So you see the 3 targets. Let's go back to if you're below your reserve goal. How did I come up with this 3 to 5%? And I backed into it. At the 5% level, I think it's hard to budget for a bottom line above 5%, because then you're saying a nickel of every dollar we collect is going to go in our operating reserve. So I sort of cap it there. And if you're above your reserve goal, you'll see the minimum cap is at 1%, because I don't like to have that bottom line so tight that it's basically a zero-based budget. And I don't like the optics of that. So I'd like to have some wiggle room. It becomes a contingency for me. So it's 1 to 2 when you're above, 3 to 5 when you're below, and you can see the middle. And the last part is to have a reporting mechanism and a reporting process in, so people be able to visualize what this operating reserve is going to look like and how you're going to report. We're going to report once a year. We're going to report after the audit's done, so it's consistently reported, and we have the numbers have been checked. As you'll see with this sample template, it really provides a visual for individuals to bring together the whole operating reserve process and to gain comfort what they can look at once a year. What's interesting, if you notice this with the template, it's pretty clean, is that if you go to the bottom line, you'll notice the number of operating reserves months is going down while the actual operating reserves are ticking up a little bit. And this is because of that second to bottom line where you can see our operating reserve goal based on the most current year budget is going up. So even though this organization is growing, their operating reserves are actually declining. You could see how important operating reserves are to sustainability. It's a key to what we are messaging on our website. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. For more information, please go to SE4nonprofits.com. See you next time.